Hey everybody, we're going to go through a couple common issues that you might find when editing a photo shoot. This is a small condo that I shot the other day. Just got these images back from my editor, and I noticed there was a couple problems here, specifically one here and one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually walk you through the entire process of fixing these. Now, since I got this from my editor, I don't have the Lightroom catalog or any of that set up. So I'm going to go through that right now. So first we're going to open Lightroom. Here's another project. Let's actually close that out. I'm going to create a new catalog. And this photo shoot was Lair Realty Partners. Yeah, this was this one. We'll just call it 44 Pamela Amesbury. All right, so we just opened our fresh catalog. I'm going to go ahead, import photos and videos. Once our import dialog opens up, I'm going to go through and find our files. And here they are. If you're unfamiliar with Lightroom, it's pretty straightforward. It looks a little busy at first, but on the left is where the file is coming from. And then in the middle, we have like what we have. And then on the right, where is it going to? We're actually importing it into my catalog, and we're going to click import. So while this loads up, I wanted to note out, normally if I'm doing the full edit from start to finish, I'm actually importing directly from the SD card and copying into that folder. So you saw how, he went from the year to the brokerage office name, to the office name, the agent name, the property name. I'd go from the card to the external hard drive on the right while I'm creating my catalog, and it would actually save us some time. Now, these are all of my raw files. I'm not going to go through the entire photo shoot because, it's already been done, but we're going to start at this photo specifically, and I think that's the last one right there. I'm just going to go ahead, rate them 1 star, and set a 1-star filter. So these are all the photos that we're going to work with. So I'm going to bring them over into the develop mode. Going to hit them with my real estate interiors preset. I'm going to actually bring some of the colors back on these just a little bit. Bring that orange and yellow back in here. Okay. And then I'm going to go through one by one, make sure that our white balance is where I want it and that our exposure is where I want it. Number two is looking a bit better to me. And number 3. All right, we're going to go with the second one in my bracket as I do. Color balance is looking okay. So in the final image that my editor delivered, this reflection of the flash was what we were seeing in the final product. And let's make some little edits here, okay? And then in the final edit, the view through this doorway was a bit too dark for me. And when I'm compositing these in, I'm just looking in this window right here. That's all I'm looking at while I'm making my adjustments. I'm not looking at the rest of the image because this is the only part that I'm going to use. Okay, white balance looking good. And then I did another one here. I don't know why. Why did I do this? Now we're just going to bring those right over into Photoshop. So for this, I just did Control A to select them all, right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, with all my layers loaded up, I'm just going to go to my actions. You guys can't see it. I have a multi-screen setup here. I'm just going to play a special action. You guys can't see my actions window. I have a multi-screen setup here, my histograms and everything on the side. So I'm just going to hit play on the action, and it's going to run through. It's going to align all of these selected layers, and it's going to make a couple adjustment layers for us as well. Okay, adjustments complete. So on top, we have a little curves layer for some minor color adjustments. We have a merged layer in overlay mode with low opacity for a little contrast. We have a ambient layer in luminosity mode with a luminosity mask. And actually to do that, you just take your ambient layer and you go and you look at your channels and then just select like red, green, blue, whatever channel has the most contrast in it. I have it set to blue. And then it just uses that to create a mask. It selects that layer, creates it as a mask, and then changes the blending mode to luminosity. Pretty neat little trick. And then I have my flash layers underneath. So I'm going to first take my main flash of the main kitchen area here, take it to the bottom. And then we have this second layer out here, and then the farthest room. So I'm going to put the farthest room on top, hide it, and then we get a little bit closer, and a little bit closer. So I'm just going to take a look at this with me. I don't know. Let's put that in light mode, see what it actually is doing. It's not helping at all. I don't know why I did that. Must have seemed like a good idea at the time. Just going to take that down and get rid of it. Okie dokie. Now we've got this one here. So just quickly, I'm going to create a lasso using my lasso tool, making sure that layer is selected. I'm going to click the mask icon, it creates a mask, switch it into lighten mode, open up my brush. We'll make a pretty soft brush here. And then, what's my flow? Opacity 100%, flow 13%. And then just kind of manually blending it in here. Just a little manual blending. No big deal. Okay, oops. Still looking a little fake down in here and up here. Okay, I don't hate it. It doesn't look perfect, but we'll fix that in a minute. And then the farthest one, get my lasso tool, same deal, just a quick little selection, create mask, switch to lighten mode. And whoa, that one looks even worse. Let's see. Okay. I'm just very quickly and roughly masking that in just to see how it looks. And that looks okay. I mean, this one needs a little bit more work probably. Let's see. That's a little bit better. Okay. Luminosity mask. How is that looking? So what we're going to do here is, I kind of liked the look on these cabinets. Yeah, it didn't look bad. And then how about the curio thingy up here? And then I'm going to rely a little bit more on the flash layer over here. Okay, it's coming together. A little bit more here. Okay, now we've still got this kind of weirdness going on in the back. So what can we do about that? Well, since this was the ambient layer, we can just go ahead and use it. We're going to delete the layer mask, switch it into a normal blending mode. At some point, I'm going to actually leave this as a part of the action to just leave the ambient layer, or at least a copy of it, hidden. So we can go through and blend it in if we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and create a black layer mask. White flow will probably bring down like 6%. And then we're just going to paint in our ambient here. That's looking much, much better. We'll add some ambient with the lights here and the ceiling as well. Let's see how that looks. Okay, not too bad. Maybe a little bit more over the refrigerator. Natural shadows coming in. Okay, looking good. Yeah, not too bad. Final layer for contrast. It's a bit too punchy. Bring that down to like 10, 12%. Let's see a bit better. And then final layer for colors. Great. Noticing a color cast on the ceiling. We're just going to go ahead with a quick select tool, select out that ceiling, but not, of course, cabinets. That's just a really quick, rough selection of the ceiling. We add it by holding the Shift or the Alt key to, refine those little weird peaks. With the selection active, we go to the adjustment layer and then hue saturation. And then we're going to go ahead and just dial the saturation way down on it until the weird color cast goes away. Look at that. Now we do have this weird issue, white light, yellow spots. Well, no problem. Just bring up the old brush, make it black, and brush over the lights. Bring the yellow back over the lights, and a little bit over here, and nice, looks great. Okay, now that is one way to deal with that. Now we might notice that maybe things are a little bit too dark over here, so we could actually go through and, select out elements that we think are not looking quite right, and then do a similar thing with the selection active, except activate a curves layer, and then here, I'll bring this window over so you guys can see it. Bring up the curves a little bit, maybe something like that. And then we're going to change the blending mode. Luminosity, no. Lighten. It's not too fabulous. Normal's probably fine. We're just going to bring down the opacity just a little bit to make it look more natural. All right, look at that. All right, now this is going to go back home to my other screen. And by the way, that's super useful to have things like your histogram open and your brush settings and so on a separate monitor. I really recommend it. Maybe I'll make a second video about that later. And that is how we can correct those issues using the ambient layer. If you have a good ambient exposure to take out those reflections and then to blend in the flashes. Now, maybe if you didn't go and take flash frames for these other rooms, let's quickly show you what we could do there. We're going to delete that layer mask and say, you want it to brighten up this area. So with your quick select tool open, you can just select out the space that you can see through the doorway. Get as accurate as you possibly can. But if you go over or under, remember, when you create the mask, you can actually brush in more or less of the mask if you need to. So it doesn't necessarily have to be pixel perfect when you get it started. But let's say generally this is what we want to do. And then we're just going to create an adjustment layer of curves. And I'm going to bring it back over here so you can see. You just grab in the middle and bring that up a little bit. Maybe we'll keep the highlights down. Maybe we'll let the darks come up just a little bit. And then, you can change your blending modes. And when you're done with that, grab your brush and feather in those hard edges on the mask so it doesn't quite look so false. And then you see before, after. So you can do that really fast to make those kinds of little exposure adjustments. But with no changes whatsoever, this is our ambient layer, and this is our final composite. Before, after. Before, after. The flash does bring in some potential issues if you're not using it properly, or if you're like me and you just run through the property super fast. You get the flash glare here, and then you have the issue of how do I make this little long extended hallway area kind of match with the colors and everything in the rest of the photo. So you're going to have to either add some more flash frames or just do what I did with the curves layer. If the colors are off, you'll also need to make independent color adjustments. That's why I like to run through with the flash. It's just faster for me to take several flash photos to composite later and have everything really consistent as far as that goes. So I hope this was a helpful little trick that you can use in the future. And remember, this depends on taking multiple flash layers and mixing them and compositing them with your ambient layer. So if you're doing single ambient exposures If you're doing HDR or single flash frames, this is not going to work. This is when you're taking your ambient as a base and you're adding your flash in the same way that I am doing here. I hope this was helpful. Any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you on the next one.